Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you? More to the point.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm happy that it's funny, we're meeting up in at 4 o'clock 4 a.m. my time.
Yep.
Um, because I couldn't sleep. My body has slept so much this weekend that I'm still in my pajamas. That the COVID I thought I was like immune to COVID, honestly. And
You are not.
yeah, apparently I'm not. And it's weird because nobody in my family got it, so I'm wondering if I got it with the travel, with the, being at the cons and nobody was having to wear masks and on the plane.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been a rough go around and I want to apologize to all of our listeners for the delay. Um, I've been trying. We recorded almost all of season 1, episode 1 over the weekend, but then I almost died, and then I had to end the live early, and I went to bed and I slept for like 16 hours. So
Bless you.
um, yeah, I made it through a work day yesterday, which was good.
Woo!
Yeah, and so hopefully I'm on the mend, and I'm excited to be back at Station 19 2020 podcast
At 4 o'clock in the morning.
at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I'll probably watch Station 19 when we're done, being honest.
Look, if you can't sleep, what better thing to do, quite
What better thing
frankly?
to do? Yeah.
Well, I think when we left each other, we had just been discussing Ryan and Andy's little romantic interlude at her apartment.
Where she said she wasn't drunk doing her nose
Doing her
test.
nose test. Yes,
Yeah, which
exactly.
clearly she was drunk, right?
I don't know.
Or at least maybe a little buzzed, I would say.
I don't
Maybe a
know how
little
well
bit.
she handles her liquor. I mean,
I don't either. She drink I mean she drinks quite a bit with the firefighters, so maybe she was fine. I don't know.
well, I mean, Ryan seemed happy that she was giving her consent, that she was
Yeah, yeah.
okay to consent. So we'll take his word for it.
I just have to say I love Ryan. Meeting him at the con in Italy, he was so sweet and so kind. He didn't, when they tried to rush you through the autographs, he didn't allow them to do that. He asked questions. He was like, "Where are you from? What do you do? What are some of your favorite hobbies?" Like he actually made conversation and didn't just sign the thing and say thank you.
Yeah,
And it made me appreciate him so much more as an actor. And he even said during one of the panels that he was how much he loved the character of Ryan and how sad he was when they said they were going a different route. And it just broke my heart for him that I wish I would have seen more of that storyline with Ryan.
yeah. No, he was definitely an excellent character. And I think they set out their stall with Ryan really, really well in this pilot. I
Hmm.
think that you saw how much integrity Ryan has.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to the professionalism with his job and also his treatment of Andy as well. So I think they showed Ryan to be one of the more likable characters in the pilot,
Yeah,
for sure.
for sure. For sure, for sure.
Shall we go to the next scene, though? Are you happy to move on to the next scene?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we head back to 19, where we see Ben and Miranda. We get to see
Love
Bailey.
Miranda.
Here she is in the pilot. Start as you mean to go on, keeping Bailey in there. So that was great to see. And we see Ben have a little bit of humility because he confides in Miranda to say that he feels like he's messing
Yeah.
everything up. And that's not kind of what we've seen. I quite appreciated this because Ben's, I think I said when we spoke before, Ben was quite arrogant in Grays. He was quite an arrogant character. And then in
Right.
the first part of the pilot, he's super arrogant, can't wait to say, oh, well, as a surgeon, and these are the things I've seen as a surgeon. And he pulls the surgeon card quite readily. So it's nice to see that that's all just a facade. And so, yeah, he tells Miranda that he feels like he's messing everything up. And she tells him what I think we would all quite like to have told him, which is just to stop showing off.
Yeah.
And she says, well, then just stop showing off and be good. If you want to be good, stop showing off and just be good,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is just great advice,
It is
really.
great advice. She always gives great advice. You have to love Miranda Bailey. You have to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So then we go to Maya stretching in the locker room. And then Jack comes in looking for Andy, who isn't there yet, but she soon is because as they start talking, Andy rounds the corner and she hears him talk about how she freaked out over the ring and kind of quickly dives behind some lockers. And then I loved that Maya expertly maneuvered Jack by moving her body position so that he can't
Yeah.
get sight of Andy, so Andy's out of his line of sight.
Yeah.
And they kind of talk it out, and he says to Maya that he's not a terrible choice for Andy, um, which prompts one of my favorite Maya lines. Right, you are so hot, you can get all the ladies.
Right. Right.
Season one Maya is just stone cold hilarious,
She is. She really is.
and her kind of facial expression and her delivery of that line, I think, just sums up season one Maya, just being like
Mhm.
really cutting. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I enjoyed that exchange. But the upshot of it is that Jack loves Andy. We find out that Jack genuinely, I mean, you'd hope that he loves Andy if he's going to
Right.
propose, if he's bought a ring. But yeah, we find that Jack loves Andy. And then we see the other side of the discussion, because Andy and Maya go outside and Andy talks while Maya literally runs rings round her. And Andy tells her that she slept with Ryan. And Maya, instead of saying what I would say, which is that not cheating? Um,
Mhm.
Says that she thinks it's hot and to go after it, and then and and then frames it as recycling because she's already seen him naked before. I don't know. I've never heard that before, but it amused me. And then Andy confides in Maya that she does have feelings for Jack, just not marrying feelings. I think she actually
Yeah.
says, I feel things, just not marrying things. I think
Right.
that's what she says.
Yeah. That she loves him, just not that way.
Yeah. Or I don't
Yeah.
even know that she says that she loves him. I think she just says that she
Has
feels
feelings.
things.
Yeah, has
Yeah.
feelings. Yeah.
But and she says that she's awful, and Maya says, no, you feel awful, and there's a difference, and stop spinning, especially over a guy, because we are way too awesome than that. And then Maya says that her rule is to embrace the pain, which, knowing what we know now, we know exactly how true that is.
How? Yep. Yep.
And I just kind of find that incredible when they take a thread and they pull it all the way through 6 seasons.
Yes. Yep. No, I agree. That was impressive how they subtly gave us things that we maybe didn't catch on to.
Yeah, or whether it's retrospectively that the writers kind of go back and, like we do, maniacally watch it over
Yeah.
and over and over and
Yeah.
kind of pick up on these threads and think, let's tug at this one, let's tug at this one, and then follow it through kind of
Sure.
uh, retrospectively, whichever way it happens. I think it's really impressive. But Maya says that embracing the pain is how she won her medal, and Andy should find her medal and then go after that.
Yes.
And then we go to Vic and Dean in the locker room, and then Vic pretends that she can tell from Dean's demeanor that he's had sex. Which again, it's just classic Vic right from the beginning. I think she's one of the characters that's remained unchanged. That could have been her and Dean in season 5, before they killed him. It could have been Vic and Dean at any time, couldn't it?
Can I say something? This might be very unpopular.
No, go
Um,
for it.
but I don't really miss Dean. I wasn't a huge fan of Dean. I think it was very sad that how he died and that he
Yeah.
died, but he wasn't one of my favorite characters, and I
I
don't know
f-
why.
yeah, I don't think I miss Dean when I watch it now. I don't kind of think, oh,
Yeah,
where's Dean? Like, I
right.
don't, now. But when I go back and rewatch episodes where Dean is there, then I do have that little like tinge of, oh, Dean was great.
Do you?
And yeah, I do. And I really enjoyed Dean actually when he got really motivated over the institutionalized racism within
Oh yes.
FD and PD.
No, I agree. He did amazing things. I just didn't care for his character very much. I don't know why.
No.
He was kind of cocky. I don't know. I just didn't
Mm,
care for him.
no. I mean, I think I quite liked him, and I really liked how he sort of bulked the trend. He went against what, he was raised in this very kind of capitalist way of, look, we've built this life for you so that you don't have to struggle,
Hmm.
so you can have an easy life. We've done this
Right,
so you can have an easy life, and we expect
right,
you to be grateful for the things that we've given you and to show your gratitude by doing exactly what
right,
we expect of you.
right.
And I kind of like that he said, no, the fact that you've given me these gifts, that I've got this education and I've had this prior career and I've got this money behind me and I've got, has now kind of freed me to use my position of privilege,
Hmm.
such as it is, to try and help those with less privilege. Because Dean has the privilege of money, which a lot of his peers don't have. But that's the only privilege he has.
Well, when you put it like that, you have to like him.
Yeah, I really liked that he left the world of finance where he could have just not done very much work and had an awful lot of financial gain out of it and just had an easy life. And he chose not to do that.
He just seemed like, to me, he just seemed like his opinion was the only right opinion
Mm,
in a lot of situations.
do you know what? I will bear that in mind when we rewatch some more and see if,
Hmm.
because sometimes it takes someone else to kind of lift the scales from your eyes.
Yeah,
So
I
I'll
agree.
I'll bear that in mind when I rewatch for
Yeah,
sure.
like you just lifted the scales of my eyes about that part of him.
Yeah.
I'm eating one of my kids' um, suckers that are their throat. They're like cough drops, but they can't have cough
Oh,
drops, so they're
yeah.
suckers. And I can't find
I
my
remember
cough
Abe
drops.
asking
So
you. Abe was asking you for one actually during one of our recordings
yeah,
because he
and
likes the taste of them. Yeah.
I couldn't find a cough drop, so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna use one of his throat soothing lollipops.
I hope he hasn't counted how many he had left, or you're going to be in trouble.
he don't, he doesn't like this flavor, so I
Oh,
figured I'd
then you're
take
doing
it.
him a favor. You're doing
Yeah.
him a favor.
Hmm.
So Vic and Dean in the locker room. Vic's pretending that she can tell from his demeanor that he's just had sex, and then she admits, No, dummy, I looked at your phone. I can't tell from just by looking at you that you've had sex. I've looked at
Yeah.
your phone. You
Right.
idiot."
Right.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. They just had great chemistry from that first
Hmm.
scene of theirs. I enjoyed that. And then we skip to Andy and Jack, who basically stare at each other for about 30 seconds and say nothing until they get called to another call. Anything more to say about that hasn't been said before we
Nope.
move
Let's
on?
go.
Okay.
Keep trucking.
Keep trucking.
That's what they say
Um,
here. Let's keep trucking.
just keep trucking. There's a Tanya Tucker song that's, I think, called "Keep Trucking."
You're learning all the American euphemisms. Let's keep trucking.
I think basically all of my American phraseology comes from country music. Yeah, it's hard luck. There's a Tanya Tucker song called "Hard Luck." Hard luck, keep trucking.
I see why he doesn't like that one.
If you could see Tiffany's face right now, guys,
Ugh.
she did not enjoy that lolly.
Mm-mm.
Okay, right. So When Jack and Andy get saved by the bell from awkwardly staring at each other, they go to a- another call where Ryan is already on the scene when Jack and Andy arrive. And it's a woman wedged between two brick walls. And before they go and attend to this poor woman, Andy and Ryan decide to have a tete-a-tete about their romantic interlude. That's what I'm going to call it.
Mhm.
And Andy tells Ryan they should just forget about what happened. And he agrees. And then she gets offended that he's agreed.
Right.
So work that one out. So this poor woman, I mean, I guess her predicament is a not very subtle metaphor for Andy being stuck between a rock and a hard place with Ryan and Jack. That's how I read it.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Um, Andy tells this poor woman who is, I mean, rightly freaking out, what Maya told her, which is to stop spinning. And then she tells her to relax, let go. And then that's how she's going to get herself out of the situation.
Mhm.
And that's what they do. She relaxes, they get her out of the situation. Jack tells Andy that she was great on the call and that he sees how Pruitt overlooks her, but he won't do the same if he has to take over 19.
Right.
Slightly presumptuous. And it's at that point that I guess Andy realizes that taking over 19 is her medal. She goes straight to her dad and says, I want to be promoted. And he says, well, you can't be captain because you're not even a lieutenant yet. And she says, well, I haven't made lieutenant because I've been too busy mopping up after you. And she says she's been pulling out of the rubble her whole life and she knows that she can lead.
Okay.
Then we see Warren apologizing to Vic and Travis for being a surgery nerd. So he's taken his wife's words to heart. Very smart man to do so. And he says that he's just been speaking a different language to them because he hasn't learned Fire Nerd yet, but he wants to. And Vic finally calls him by his name and they polish the truck together. And then Andy has a voiceover about not having poles in most stations because they're too worried about playing it safe. And then we go from that to the captain's hospital room where he tells Jack that he's promoting Andy to lieutenant, and Jack is visibly fuming. So, despite all his protestations to Andy that he sees how Pruitt overlooks her and he won't do the same, he's not very happy when she's not overlooked by Pruitt. So, it seems like he only wants her to succeed if he can be the one to take credit for it.
Right. Right.
So did you have anything that you wanted to say about any of that stuff, like Warren and Vic and Travis, or the exchange between Jack, Andy, and Pruitt in the hospital?
No, I think the Jack, Andy, and Pruitt in the hospital was long overdue. I think he held his daughter for his own advantage, and she should have been made lieutenant a long time ago. She proved that
Yeah.
over and over and over again. Um, the I don't really have much to say about the Vic and Dean right now. I'll get there.
Okay. So then we go back to 19 from the hospital room. Everyone's in the kitchen. There's more banter. Dean's cooking steaks that were gifted to them by the woman whose puppy he saved. And then we get more comedy Maya saying, oh, come on, Dean, don't invite the rescues in. So I don't know if maybe that's something that he does a lot. It seems like maybe that's how they're kind of setting Dean up to have like a soft heart and like a
Yeah.
guy that takes in other waifs and strays, maybe. Um, Andy and Jack come in and deliver the news that the captain's not coming back. And then Dean immediately congratulates Jack and then reluctantly congratulates Andy when she says that she'll be joining him. So Maya, I think, is the only one who's actually happy.
Yeah.
And she has a wry, like, yes smile on her
Yeah.
face when Andy starts talking about her dad having them chase a pole day all the time and stuff. And Andy says that every day, every life saved, every fire extinguished is the prize, and that they've earned the pole, and that every damn day is a pole day. And then they go through a gate marked never going to happen. And one by one, they go down the pole. Everyone's stoked except for Jack, who remains fuming. And
Yep.
that's how we end the pilot. So I just think the pilot did a great job of telling us almost everything that we need to know, I think, from the get go. I mean, from the point of view of a person who watched Greys, there are a few too many parallels for me
Mhm.
to Greys. So I mean, it's not even that they used a Greys blueprint, it's almost like a carbon copy.
Mhm.
So they've got a ballsy, capable young woman in the shadow of slash held back by a parent, because Meredith Grey's mum, Ellis Grey, is like this preeminent doctor, world famous surgeon. And so when she walks into the hospital, she's immediately in her mother's shadow because everyone expects her to be some sort of genius because she's Ellis Grey's daughter. And similarly, Pruitt's, the captain of the firehouse, he's basically everyone's dad. And everyone loves Pruitt, and he's a bit of a legend. And so you've got Andy in his shadow. And the fact that Meredith has kind of been held back by her mother because her mother's not necessarily a particularly good person all of the time, doesn't treat her daughter very well. And where Pruitt's not outwardly cruel, he's definitely taken advantage of Andy and held her back by having her do all the grunt work and just kind of keeping her where she's most useful to him, I think. Whether that
Yeah.
was on purpose or, I don't think that he's done that on purpose. I just think that he's got very used to it. So there's that element. Um, a messy and or inappropriate relationship with a superior, because in the first episode of Grey's Anatomy, Meredith accidentally, she doesn't know that he's her boss, but she has a one night stand with a guy who it turns out is her boss. And then we've got Andy sleeping with a lieutenant, so that a man above her rank. So there's that. There's the too cool for school best friend. So Meredith has Christina Yang, who's kind of like Maya is in this episode, to be honest, like just very witty, very frank, very kind of just says what's on her mind, doesn't mind getting a rise out of people, taking the mickey out of people, just very cool. So they're on a par, even to the extent that actually they've both got ailing parents, because Ellis Grey has Alzheimer's. We find that her body and mind are deteriorating. And then we've got Pruitt, who's got cancer. So even to the extent they've both got an ailing parent. Oh, and they were both raised by a single parent, because Meredith's
Uh,
dad's not in the picture, Andy's mum's not in the picture. They've literally put Meredith Grey in a firefighter's outfit for me. And like the situations are almost identical. And then you've got the voiceover that Meredith does the voiceover and Andy does the voiceover. So it's very,
yeah.
very, very, this is Grey's Anatomy in a firehouse in
Yeah.
this first episode. So they've positioned Andy, I think, as like the central character, as the Meredith Grey character. And then that then kind of de facto puts everyone else in as supporting cast, I think. When you've got one person doing the voiceover, it de facto makes everybody else a supporting character, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But I think they did a good job with everybody. So Travis, from the get-go, we know he's gay because he talks about his husband. We know he's funny because he's got the lines, like the pole being shiny and mocking and that stuff. We know that he's a good caretaker because he's cooking for everybody. And we also know that he takes his job very seriously, despite being a bit of a joker of the pack, because we see him yelling at Warren but almost killing Pruitt. And then when Vic wants to borrow the car, he says, okay, but no lights, no sirens, when she wants to borrow the A car. So I think that they do a good job of Travis. Dean seems kind of like they're positioning him to be part ladies' man, part sweet, naive guy, the one taking in all the rescues. Vic, straight away, we've got her as being sassy and funny. And I think in this episode, she seemed like more like one of the lads than one of the girls,
Right. Right. I
didn't she? She
agree.
seemed like quite laddie, like she was hanging around
Yeah.
with Dean and Travis and being quite laddie, rather
Yeah.
than. So it seemed like Maya and Andy kind of had this close bond that Vic wasn't a part of. She was more like one of the lads.
Mhm.
And I think they've positioned Warren as the guy finding his feet, sort of struggling professionally and personally at the station. Jack, if you I know Ryan is part of the cast, but because he's not part of the station, he feels like he's a little bit more on the periphery of things. So just within the station, Jack's the only white guy, and I feel like maybe Jack's got a little bit of like the white knight complex a bit, maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find him particularly likable, Jack, in
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
this
agree.
episode.
He was cocky.
Yeah, very much so. A little bit too smooth. And then Pruitt, we can see that yes, he's Andy's dad, but he's a father figure to everybody. But that equally, he fails to see who Andy is. And then we've got Maya as like the funny, good friend, takes no prisoners, kind of ballsy sidekick, I
Mm-hmm.
think, to Andy. So that's how I saw everybody. And then Ryan, I think Ryan is the Karina of the group, pre Karina, because he comes
Mm-hmm.
in from outside of the station. So he brings a different perspective because he's not part of the family. He's like an adjunct to the family because he comes in through Andy and then obviously later will build relationships with people. And then they also give us the premise for the rest of the season, which is the captain's dying. So there's a fight to run the station to see who's going to be the next
Yeah,
captain. So I thought, in that vein, they did a pretty awesome job of setting out the stall for us.
I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Anything that I missed? Anything you saw that I didn't?
No, I was looking at my notes that I had. I finally remembered my notebook, and
Babe.
you pretty much hit everything on my notes. The only thing I put was like which which character looked the most different to you, just kind of have fun stuff. I thought
Yeah.
Jack looked the most different, and my mom thought Travis looked the most different.
Oh, really? I didn't think
Yeah.
Travis. I didn't see. I think thought Travis remained for me remained
Yeah,
unchanged. I'm obviously
I
missing
agree.
something, but
And then I thought that they had rougher personalities where they roasted each other more
yeah,
and they were just a little bit more rough with each other. Um, and then I said that the fire seemed more exciting for them. You know, he was like, we put red stuff on the wet stuff. Like they just seemed more excited about the fires
yeah,
and that they explained more what was going on with the fires and why they did what they did and things like that. And I kind of miss that about about the different the episodes that we have now.
yeah.
And then I put, did we think that Andy um, was being disrespectful by making it a poll day, or do you think she was just trying to gain their trust in being different? Do you think she was being disrespectful to her father?
No, I didn't see it as disrespectful to her dad at all.
You didn't?
I
Okay.
no, no. I mean, did you? Is that why you posed the question?
No, I just wondered. I thought that
Yeah,
some people might see it that way. Because she's very much, I mean, she's her father's daughter, and I just kind of expected her to follow his rules and his lead, not to a T, but to do a pool day that very first day that she was made captain. I just kind of thought it was a little bit quick. That's all.
yeah. No, I quite liked it because I thought it was literally like setting out her stall and saying, "Look, I know that he's a great man. Don't get me wrong. He's my dad, and I love the guy. But I think that maybe he doesn't recognize the things that I recognize." And it wasn't just like the old man's in hospital. Let's go down the pole. The fact that she said, "Look, every life saved is worth celebrating. Every fire that we put out is worth celebrating."
Right,
So every damn day should be a poll day. Every day that we do this job and we do it well is a day that should be celebrated. So
right.
I think with the sentiment that went behind it, like if she'd just been like, while his back's turned, let's run riot, I think I would have seen that as being disrespectful. But I think that it was less disrespecting him and more respecting everybody else,
Okay.
maybe, for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I think for me, I think this is probably one of the best pilots I've seen because I think pilots, as a general rule, can be a little bit clunky because they try and try to do too much to impress from the start, because obviously that's basically the show's audition tape, isn't it? To see if they're going to
Yeah.
get a run. So I can understand why things usually get overdone. I didn't
Mhm.
think this was. I thought it was measured. We got to know who everyone was. We got to know who they are at work. We got to know their kind of family dynamics. We saw some alliances and friendships pop up straight away. So the Vic Travis dynamic, the Myra and Andy dynamic. We've got personal struggle with Warren, who's obviously going through a period of change. We've got a love triangle with Andy, Ryan, and Jack. And we've got a theme for the season, which is the race to the captaincy. But the only thing that I didn't think they did well was Andy and Jack. Their relationship
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
me at all. There are
I
way too
agree.
many holes. I don't know how long they've been together. I don't know whether they're actually dating or whether it's just sex,
Right.
because nobody except
Right.
Maya knows about them.
Right.
So presumably they don't go out and about dating, because that would be too dangerous. People would catch them. So then if it's just sex, then how has Jack got to the point that he loves her and wants to marry her?
Right.
Clearly they don't really talk, because he doesn't know that she's either not into marriage or not into marrying him, one or the other. He says he loves her, but she's happy to go and sleep with her ex. So there's definitely a discord there in their feelings. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I agree 100%. It's Andy tends to have one-sided relationships. Even when we go future into Sullivan, he loved her so much, and she was just kind of like, blah.
Meh. Yeah.
It's the same way, you know?
And I don't know, it just a lot of the stuff with Jack's thing as well. So he tells Maya that his parents got married after 6 months. Is he saying that to indicate that that's how long he and Andy have been seeing each other? So he thinks it's about time. I don't know. It's just very weird. We don't know how they got together, and he's been at the station for 2 years. But I mean, it's almost definite they haven't been together for that whole time. So at what point did it switch to, that they were attracted to each other? I don't
I do
know.
think he loves her, though. I really do.
Yeah, but I don't. It's just, I don't know. There's just too much that's unexplained for me. There's too many holes in it. Like I just can't get my head around it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know what their dynamic is. So I wish that had been dealt with a little bit better, because I think that was the only thing that was kind of rough in the episode, and it was quite a big deal because it was something that went all the way through. So yeah, I just wish that had been explained better. And again, it's just an aside, but Jack says, "Oh, my parents got married after 6 months,"
Hmm.
and I know that they clear that up in a later episode, and he says something along the lines of, "Oh well, I know that they were just my foster parents, but because they were going to adopt me or whatever, I considered them my parents. Like I just call them
Hmm.
my parents, these two people." So it does get kind of cleared up later on. But things like this just pop into my head, and I wonder at what point did they decide on the backstory?
Hmm.
At what point did they dream this up for Jack, that he's had this
Right.
tumultuous? Because I mean, clearly in the I don't imagine for 1 minute that it was from episode one with him saying, "Well, my parents got married after 6 months." Like it seems
Right.
like that was, that he had sort of a quote unquote normal upbringing at this point,
Right.
and that it was later on down the line. So it's just things like that just get my grey matter working. At what point did the writers go in and say, "Hey, we've got this idea for Jack, how about if he had this really unstable, really horrendous childhood?" And then
Hmm.
they have to go in and repair the damage that they've done by saying things like, "Well, my parents got married after 6 months."
Yeah, because even the way he looked, like his hair was more well kept in season one.
He was Mr.
He was
Smooth.
so smooth. Yeah. And now it's like he's
His
not.
body language, the way he stood tall, the way he carried
Hmm.
himself, yeah, everything was just, yeah, positioning him as the heartthrob, I
Yeah.
think, of the piece, sort of Mr. America, kind of GI Joe,
Hmm.
that kind of guy. But overall, I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, they did. Perfect. Good episode.
So because it was the first one, I didn't feel like there were any themes It felt like here are our people, here's some fires, here's their predicament. Did you feel there were any themes?
No, I think it was all introduction
Yeah, absolutely.
for sure.
And so I didn't think that anyone had any growth either as a character because again, for the same reason, it's just like these are these people.
Hmm.
We don't know them enough to see any growth. So
Right.
but there were a lot of good scenes. So for you, what was the best scene of the pilot?
I loved the scene in the um the rig when Maya was like, "Oh, he proposed. Oh, we're not happy." Like how she went
Yeah,
from being
yeah,
really excited to reading
yeah,
Andy to really upset. I loved that. I think Maya pulled that off beautifully.
yeah,
I
that
loved
was
it.
great. That was very, very good. He's a monster. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was great. That was great. I enjoyed the jump out of the window. I thought it was
Yes.
high
Yes.
octane drama.
Uh-huh.
It was well done by everybody, and I thought it was really exciting. And so
It was.
I liked that.
It was just good action.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
action,
for
exactly.
sure.
Did you have a favorite line or a favorite piece of dialogue?
Probably when Meredith let Andy cry in the room. I
Yeah,
just really appreciate it wasn't really dialogue, but the crying that we saw and that side of Andy I really appreciated.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I liked Every Damn Day is a Pole Day.
yeah.
I liked it. Just thought, just summed it up. Every damn day is a pole day. So I liked that one. And my most gifable moment, I chose your favourite scene. So I've said that Maya's facial expression when Andy tells her that Jack proposed. And then I've put in brackets all of her facial expressions because
Yeah.
she's just,
Like
yeah, she was just very expressive. There was a lot of physical
it was
face comedy from Danielle Sobri in
he's
in
a
this episode.
monster.
But
Like that could have
yeah,
been yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for
So
sure.
that was my most gifable moment was basically everything that Maya does with her face. Did you have a most gifable moment?
Hmm. Um Probably when Ben said, "Fire nerds," just because I could use that one.
Good stuff. Well, I think that caps off the pilot, unless you had anything else that you wanted to add,
No, I'm ready for season 1, episode 2.
which was called Invisible to Me, written by Stacey McKee and Shonda Rhimes, Paris Barkley back in the director's chair, and the logline slash synopsis says a car accident puts the lives of the victims and the crew at risk.
Okay.
So it's call time on 101, and we'll
Okay.
join people for 102 ASAP.
Alrighty.